Chilling tales for dark nights.
Knuckle Supper. Written by Drew Stepek. Performed by Jason Hill. Chapter 7. Impostors. It was Halloween night in Los Angeles. Contrary to popular belief, it got really fall-like that year. The leaves changed color and the wind picked up on most nights. So much so that thick tree limbs lined the streets. It never made for a solid sewage system during rainy winters because most of the shit filled the drains, causing neighborhood flooding everywhere. From what I read and had seen on TV and the internet, I only guessed what winter and fall were like in the rest of the world. I'd never seen real snow, and despite my physical aversion to sun and heat, I hated the cold. My body was always cold enough for me. Bate had been staying with me for around 4 months, and although the plan was to have her lead Johns back to my place, it didn't end up that way. I tried to justify her being alive, saying that she had become quite a housekeeper. In all reality, her version of upkeep in labor involved running a vacuum across the hardwood floors only long enough to carelessly chip and scratch them. It was hardly worthy of room and board. But she was doing her part with the stolen drugs. She had become a solid go-between, and her involvement seemingly kept us off the Battlesnake's radar. Des didn't see the point of her being able to breathe another day at all. As the antagonism grew between them, the questions about her relevance increased and drove Des and me further apart. Beyond anything else, he was pissed off that I never asked him to stay with me unless he was too faded to get out before daylight rolled around. I truly felt bad because, well, after all, he was like a brother to me. However, what didn't seem to register with him was that Bate was a brittle human girl living on the streets. He, on the other hand, was this otherworldly street hustler who always managed to land on his feet, especially when killing to get ahead was involved. I was only worried about Des surviving when he was first jumped in. After that, he seemed fine once off the rat blood and on his own. As for Halloween, I guess I didn't have the right to comment on the holiday much at all because I never remembered being a kid. But I never liked Halloween. It wasn't as much about me getting angry about a bunch of punk asses around the world mocking my disease as much as it was the spectacle of Halloween in Hollywood. However, it didn't irritate me as much as the holiday being hijacked by adults. When did little girls dressing as princesses become abused porn stars dressed as drunken whores? Chances were pretty good that I would never have to answer the door to a gaggle of kids to give them candy, because they didn't trick or treat in my neighborhood anyway. Seeing how I lived in a predominantly Orthodox Jewish area, Halloween was frowned upon. Besides, for all intents and purposes, I was a serial killer, so it was better they just stayed away. I had enough stupid kids in my life. The Jewish version of Halloween in my area was called Purim, and it took place in mid-March. When it rolled around yearly, it was less about dressing as box-office superheroes, demons, wizards, and vamps, and more about them celebrating their religion. Sure, it always involved getting wasted, dressing up and feasting, but I always likened it more to Mardi Gras. I was never sure if it was a recognized part of the Jewish holiday calendar because it seemed unorthodox. I saw the conventional Jewish people more like vampires than Christians because of their strict adherence to the following of the Shabbat from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, their closeness with their family, and their overall demeanor. The Orthodox traditions, for the most part, generated internally, and to some extent, so are vampire gang traditions. Fact. Our existence depends on drugs and blood. Also a fact. Their existence is based on their spirituality. Although I would never consider a religion a gang, they still follow a pack system much like we do. The most obvious comparison would be that you can't make someone an Orthodox Jew. Marrying an outsider is considerably frowned upon. With us, we can't bite someone's neck and make them vamp out. Which brings us back to Bate. She doesn't belong. Not so much that it's a private club or that we think we're too good for her. She just didn't belong. Bates stood in the hallway while I cut and packed some meat in the kitchen. Her arms were behind her back, so I didn't know what to expect from her. I wasn't afraid she was going to try to kill me, but I sometimes wished she would put me out of my misery. Always full of childish surprises. The end result, more often than not, turned out to be something preposterous, like a friendship bracelet. She pouted and scratched her legs together like a cricket. I tried to ignore her, but she began clearing her throat to get my undivided attention. Without turning toward her, I asked, "Can I help you? I'm busy. Whatever it is that you want, I'm hoping that it can wait." I licked some au jus off a cutlet that I had just spent the better part of a half hour carefully filleting. She stayed in the hallway, remaining silent, only grunting every so often to remind me that she needed to be the center of attention. After about 2 more minutes of becoming increasingly provoked, I accidentally sliced through my finger. I stuffed the digit in my mouth. Shit! I then wrapped a paper towel around the cut. "What, Bate? What do you want?" While staring at the ground, Bate mumbled in a baby voice. "What are you doing? Are you carving a pumpkin?" I lifted the butcher knife and licked the blade. "Does it look like I'm carving a pumpkin? Is there a pumpkin anywhere in this house? Please, tell me you're not hiding a pumpkin behind your back." With her face still fixated on the door, she murmured, "I don't know." Her baby voice was much more exaggerated than usual. Somehow, between when I spoke to her earlier that day and this conversation, she had managed to develop several speech disorders, including those of, but not limited to, Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd, and Daffy Duck. When anyone, namely a 12-year-old, replaces an R with a W, it's enough to drive any parent to homicide. "What do you mean, I don't know?" She rubbed her nose on her shoulder, as not to reveal the mind-bending secret concealed behind her back. I dropped the knife on the counter, to which she curled a slight smirk out of the corner of her dopey mouth. The pale motes that surrounded her freckles went flush. Unbeknownst to her, I put down the knife not because she had won the war, but because I was afraid she might lose her life if she continued. "What, Bate, what in the hell do you want?" She pulled out one of her arms from behind her back. "You haven't done your shot today." I eyeballed the knife. It was so close. "Is that what this is all about? Who cares?" "I care," she whimpered, "and I have something else." I ignored the knife and walked to her. I bent down, took the shot from her hand, and downed it. "Cheers." Delicious, Bate. I handed her back the empty shot glass. "Are you starting to feel more human?" she asked. "Not really how it works. I eat human blood all the time." Truth be told, her blood was becoming a cleansing addition to my days, but comparing it to a regular person drinking water or juicing would be a stretch. Even if it was just a thirst quencher, it was a good one. "So, what's the big to-do? What's the other secret?" She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "It's just..." "Let's have it, Bate," I insisted, wanting desperately to get back to chopping meat. "Today is my birthday." "First of all, enough with the baby talk. Secondly, happy birthday. You're what, 14 or something today?" I never celebrated my birthday because, frankly, I never had any idea when I was born. If you can even call how I ended up walking around being born. Maybe I was the result of some experiment where a redneck fucked a raccoon. "I'm 13. "Your birthday is on Halloween. That's cool, I suppose. Do you want some candy or something?" She pulled the other hand from behind her back and thrust it in my face. I got this for you. It was the iPod. That's your iPod, and I don't want that. Besides, you didn't get it from me. You'd best keep it. It's the only way I know how to get you to shut up. She scuffed her slippers across the floor that she trashed with a vacuum on a weekly basis and put the iPod in my hand. I looked at it for a second and then returned it to her hand. I don't want this bait. You stole it, so it belongs to you. You know, finders keepers law and all that? Well, I did get it for you. I took all of your records and made them into MP3s. She handed it to me again. Now you don't have to make a huge mess all over the floor. God forbid I should make a mess that requires cleaning from a guest in my house whose job is to clean it up. I put the earbud in and scrolled to a song. How did you do this? I figured out how to do it on your computer. And I've been putting your records on it for the past month while you've been sleeping. The songs were intact. I scrolled to another that I knew was particularly battered and pushed play. All of the snaps and pops and grains were there. It was my turn to smile. I don't know what to say. This is awesome. She lit up. I also found this website where you can download a bunch of this stuff for free. I bookmarked it on your computer. But it's your birthday. I fumbled around in my back pockets, hoping to find some money. Instead, I found a losing lottery scratcher and, for some weird reason, a guitar pick. I couldn't for the life of me remember where I got it. I had no use for it. I never learned to play the guitar, so I guess the victim I got the jeans from was a rad hatchet dude. Coming up empty, I fixated into her eyes, trying to figure out what she wanted in return. She wasn't as easy to read as I thought. I don't really have anything to give you. I'm sorry. I took this. From under her shirt, she pulled out a necklace she'd made from my favorite titanium 45 adapter and a piece of string that I used to securely wrap my meat after I covered it in paper grocery bags. I should have been pissed because I hated using the yellow plastic inserts, but rather than act ungrateful, I realized that I had no use for it any longer. That's super cool. Is there anything else you want? I asked, not expecting anything more. I was suddenly preoccupied with my new toy. She had not only transferred all my 45s, including the B-sides, onto the iPod, but she also found all the cover art for the records and put them all in by name and categorized the singles by bands. I later realized that the iPod does all that shit automatically, but it seemed like a big deal at the time. Seriously. Anything you want. For a third time, she reached behind her back and pulled out a crumpled page from the LA Weekly and handed it to me. Not automatically noticing the advertisement that she circled with a marker, I studied the ad. The entire page was filled with commercials for medical marijuana, escort services, and strip clubs. Seeing how vampires can't read minds, the first ignorant thing that came out of my mouth was, I think you need to be 18 to work at a strip club. Not 12. She corrected me. 13. Right. You're still too young. Not that. She came up to the page and pointed to the ad she circled. This. I closed my eyes and exhaled. I didn't want to disappoint her after all the trouble she went through, but it was asking more than I wanted to give. I can't do this, I stammered. She tapped her index finger up and down on the newsprint. I read the ad again. Club Thirst presents the first annual Vampire Samhain Ball. Goth, fetish, darkwave, industrial. Surrounded by a frame of skulls, there was a picture of a romantic-looking vampire peering over the shoulder of a woman wearing a Victorian dress. His fangs dripped with blood, and he was winking to all the suckers who read the ad. $40 fucking dollars, I yelled, reading the small print located at the bottom of the page. Are you kidding me? Come on, RJ, she pleaded. It's my birthday, and I gave you a cool gift. Besides, I know I can get in. I was told they don't card people. No, these places bug the shit out of me. Besides, Halloween night will just be that much worse than any other stupid night. She got on her knees and placed her hands together as if she were praying. Pretty please. Look, she said, pointing to another part of the ad. $1 blood shooters. I couldn't bear to read another word in the ad. I'll bet that it's either a Bloody Mary in a shot glass or grenadine and booze in a test tube. Please give it a chance. I want to see real vampires. I crumpled up the page and threw it at her nose. Real vampires are me. The ad clung on to the white dyed streak in the front of her hair like Velcro. She swatted it away. How many times do I have to tell you that I am a real vampire? But I want to see more vampires like Eldritch. You know, romantic and clean. Thankfully, the phone rang. I sniffed my armpit on my way to pick it up. I was clean, wasn't I? I answered the phone, happy to escape the current conversation. Hello? Hey, RJ, it's Tahoe. What are you doing for Halloween? Want to go kill people? I went back to avoiding eye contact with Bait. I knew she was back to her forgotten birthday moping. Don't really feel like killing or going out at all. I hate Halloween. Like a girl left dateless on Valentine's Day, I usually stayed in. Instead of a love story and a pint of ice cream, however, I usually had some microwaved blood and heroin. Maybe I'd watch a horror movie. Bait started tugging on my shirt, and for some unlikely reason, or maybe guilt because she had given me such a thoughtful gift, I gave in. God damn it. Ugh. I'm thinking about going to this stupid club in Hollywood called Club Thirst. I heard whatever Tahoe had in his mouth spit across the room. You're kidding, right? Unfortunately, no. Bait has some desire to see what real vampires are like. You dummy, RJ. That's that stupid place where your butt buddy Eldritch recruits members for the night crawlers. I covered the phone and signaled for Bait to get ready. She chirped away, delighted, kicking the newspaper page in front of her. She banged her hands on the wall like she was a drill sergeant waking up a bunch of recruits at boot camp. Halfway down the hall, she lost her balance and slipped on the floor that remained unmopped. She bounced back up as quickly as she hit the floor and crawled into the bathroom. You're kidding me, Tahoe. I shit you not. I thought he picked those kids up off the street at the mall. No way, bro, Tahoe said. Once he convinces them he's the real deal, he brings them back to his place. He either hooks them up to that hookah thing or he has them to be his slaves. Trying to trick the big ox, I injected, You want to come with us? Oh, fuck no. Then don't tell anyone I'm going. Bait hasn't gotten us any victims yet, and I'm sure you know better than me that the shit talking about my leadership is running rampant. That's actually why I called. Des has been talking a lot of smack. What's he saying? And stop talking with your mouth full of food. It's all his chest pounding about the money he and the Desians are bringing in with the Battlesnakes heroin and Culver. Really? Just a second. I beat the earpiece on the kitchen counter, shaking off my anger, but not before getting a good fuck out of my mouth. Take it easy, RJ. No one is listening to him. It's not that. If he has the balls to talk shit about me to you guys, how long is it going to be before he slips to someone else? How long before he confides in his good pal Copperhead and lets everyone know what we're doing? Jesus. Why doesn't that scrawny little bitch just start his own gang with those idiot followers of his and the battle fakes? Like I said, no one's listening. Not the point, Tahoe. Well, why are you taking the kid to a club tonight? Man, I think she's cool and all, but it's her fucking birthday, dude. I hung up the phone only to be sprayed from behind. I turned around and saw Bait holding a blood drop-shaped glass bottle. I wiped the liquid off my neck. Ugh, what is this? It smells rancid. She read me the bottle. It's Nightshade. The essence of L. Byron Nightshade. I shook my head. She rubbed her thumb on the bottle. He's that hot vampire from the Nightshade series. I snatched the bottle out of her hand and smelled the syrup she violated me with. The red bottle had a pyramid spike wristband around the neck, and the product name was written in Gothic typeface. In the center, on the back, was the silhouette of the same messy-haired asshole that I kidded Des about in the Samsung fire escape. I gagged. Oh God, it smells like ass in a Fish concert. I smell like a stinky, rotten hippie. I felt the stench coming out of all my pores as it stung my nose like I was snorting a line of bees. Bait grabbed the bottle back and put it in her pocket. I like it. It's what all the vampires wear. As we waited in line to get in, I remembered what Club Thirst used to be back in the day. In the early 80s, it was a roller boogie rink called TJ Hustlers. I think I may have killed some jackass in their back when I was still aimlessly wandering around the streets. Somewhat ashamed that my legacy and traditions had been reduced to a fading and distorted trend perpetuated by pop culture movies, TV shows, and books, I elected to grin and bear it rather than slaughtering everyone around. Bait, done up in another of her outfits bought with my hard-earned money, rubbernecked while we waited, taking in every word and mannerism of the carnival of blockheads. This outfit was more risque than her last. A tight-laced dress was accentuated by a pair of knee-high, stiletto-heeled boots. It was a disgusting outfit for a 13-year-old, and I decided that if I did run into Eldritch, then I was going to borrow whatever ridiculous coat he was wearing to cover her. I wasn't sure, but I think she might have washed her hair and blown her nose before we left the house, because her hair was combed out of its usual frantic, matted shit style, and as far as I could tell, there wasn't a buildup of snot on her naked arm. After she had her hand stamped, I still have no idea to this day how she got into the club, Bait clomped her way into the bar. The doorman then frisked me and shouted, "Dress code required." I guessed that like many of the other bar patrons, he had recently made the transition from white-ass hippie hopper to vampire. I brushed any lint off the front of my body. What are we talking about, bro? He decided to get all hard-ass on me. I'm not your bro, friend. Okay. What are you referring to? I took a second look at my outfit. There weren't any rips. I wasn't wearing a hoodie. I wasn't wearing a bandana. Nothing gang-related. As a matter of fact, I was wearing a yellow Cramps shirt and a new pair of stolen jeans. I was even wearing shoes rather than flip-flops, which was rare for me. Desperately flexing his biceps under his mesh Danzig shirt, he pointed to a sign above the entrance and then read it aloud, dictating his authority. Vampire, Gothic, and fetish attire required. Strictly enforced. Read the last part, friend. He brushed strands from a long black wig out of his face. Strictly enforced, I replied. Here, Dick. Here's 50 large. Take the extra 10 and go buy yourself some vitamins or something. He stepped up to me. You got something to say? I didn't stand down. How do you know what a vampire dresses like, you troglodyte? Probably not knowing what troglodyte meant, he opted to grab my shirt by the collar. He then backed up his fist to punch me or scare me or something. I shook him off as a voice from behind him called out, "Hey, Mizuko, boss wants to see you." Being the tough guy that he was, the doorman went in for a punch but retracted by saying, "Psych." Before the pop reached my jaw, he flattened his palm as if to instruct me to talk to the hand. "You're lucky this time, faggot," he added, snatching the $50 out of my hand. To his dismay, no one in the long line behind me was cheering him on. Even those fakes realized what a douche he was. I was going to remember that name. Mizuko. And the stench of chili cheese fries that accompanied it. The other bouncer relieved him and stamped my hand. "Don't worry about him," he assured me with a pat on the back. Zuko gets all roid-raged sometimes. I patted him back and winked. Shocker. Yeah, have a good time, mate. He handed me some plastic fangs. This will help your costume. Thanks. I unwrapped the novelty teeth, put them in my mouth, and then grabbed a pair of earplugs out of my pockets. The music was clearly too damn loud for my delicate ears. The edges of the bridge of the teeth cut into my gums, and almost instantly my mouth filled with spit. I was glad that being a dead person didn't involve having fangs. As I put my wallet back into my pants, the self-appointed leader of a gaggle of Halloweenies bumped into me. "Hey," I said. He snorted at me like a dandy. Hey, buddy." His face was painted white with blackened cheekbones and runny eye makeup. "Nice costume, jerk." Sighing, I smiled. "It's pretty lame, huh?" One of the gang joined in. "Spit much? What's up with the earplugs, Gramps?" After a flurry of high fives, they entered the ballroom of Club Thirst in single file line. Cabs to the slaughter, I thought. I followed them with a mission to track down bait. I disbanded my fangs in a potted plant that appropriately housed a dead rose bush. The inside of TJ Hustlers had changed drastically from its original roller boogie decor. It was still round, only they took out the roller rink floor and replaced it with black tile. The wall that was used as a safety net for those not so light on their skates looked like it was smashed with a sledgehammer to emulate decay and painted headstone gray. The seats, which I imagined used to be the plastic side-by-side seating that surrounded the rink behind the walls, were torn out and replaced by tables and chairs that matched the re-envisioned spurious design. On both sides of the room, where the snack bars and video games used to be, there were now 2 bars. They served up fake absinthe and vodka cranberries. TJ Hustlers, I thought. God, was that a great name? Instead of shooting the duck, the dance moves of the week were something recycled from another 80s staple. Dead Can Dance. The new abomination dance combined washing windows, changing the light bulb, and being stuck in a coffin. It was all so mundane that I wanted to plow through the clones doing the gorilla, but I remembered it wasn't my day. Killing some wannabes who had no idea who or what they wanted to be other than what they were told wasn't in my cards. I scanned the club through a sea of fucktards and saw Bait already dancing with some idiot. Unlike the more traditional camp and trampers, he was rolling in the newer breed regalia. He was a brooding young cover boy with a pompadour tuft. His dark eyes looked like they were ready to burst into tears at any moment, but his confident arrogance said he could handle his demons. I looked at his shirt, strategically ripped and bleached, convinced that it wouldn't fit around my thigh. Tying up the outfit was a pair of nicely pressed pinstripe suit pants. "It's almost Sunday," a flamboyant kid yelled into my ear. "I'm going to be up all night. I'm totally rolling my ass off." He fanned himself with his hands. His fluffy black hair stuck to his face that was smeared from a horrible dye job. I was probably the only one in the club without black hair. My hair was shit short and dirty blonde. I looked like no one in The Cure, past or present. "Me too," said a bigger gal in a corset who fought against the rhythm of the song blaring on the sound system. It was difficult to tell if she had no sense of timing or if it was as simple as she was on so much E that her mind was playing a completely different tune altogether. If that was the case, I'm sure the song sucked. Giggling echoed from across the room. My attention returned to Bait, as I was sure she was the perfect outsider for this tribe to team up on and mock. I was correct. Unbeknownst to her, a bunch of them, including the dreamy doofus she was dancing with, encircled her on the dance floor as she robotically powered her way through one tween-absorbed hip-hop dance after another. Was she really a hooker? It was truly pathetic. I figured I'd let it continue a bit longer, to teach her a lesson, as if she didn't already know how mean people were from her single day of junior high. I cautiously walked toward her spotlight dance. As I was about to terminate the spectacle, however, I was stopped in my tracks by the reverberating sound of a finger snap. Without questioning the source, the crowd dispersed as Bate continued her stomping Running Man that wouldn't have been acceptable if it were performed as a joke to show how dumb white people are in a sitcom. Behind Bate, on an elevated table, was the source of the snap. Eldritch. He glanced at me as his talons tickled the arms of the catbird seat he aloofly fell into. I nodded at him and he nodded back, letting me know that he had everything under control. As soon as I was reassured that he had Bates' back, pretty boy Johnny Darko crept up behind and tripped her. Quickly, before either Eldritch or I could have swallowed the guy up, he made his way over to the bar. Not to be easily defeated by the embarrassment of busting ass or by the pointing and giggling whispers of the dead-for-the-weekend USC students, she tromped up behind him and grabbed his gelled hair. She slammed him into the bar.
What the fuck, asshole?
His stomach smashed into a tray full of what was almost surely the alchemistic blood shooter I had read about in the modern Necronomicon known as the LA Weekly. With his perfectly messed hair filled with plastic test tube shards, he lashed back, sweeping her leg a second time, sending her back to the floor. I didn't hesitate. I made my way over to the scene, bumping off of the girls spinning to the latest darkwave dreck that DJ Destitute spun on the wheels of Surreal. I picked Bate off the ground. She was about to burst into tears. I thought he liked me. It's cool, Bate. That guy's an asshole. Johnny Darko spat bar drippings in my ear. Who you call an asshole, old man? Behind him was a gang of his own deciding to take a night away from video games and who felt pushing buttons on a controller entitled them to act tough in the real world. My world. I spun Bate behind me. Let it go, pal, I said. Yeah, this time, he concluded. This time. She's just a dumb kid anyway. Bate tried to paw and scratch past me with her painted black press-on nails. I'm not a kid, motherfucker. Kill him, RJ. Show him what you're really like. I pulled her back to me and cupped my hand over her mouth. Giddy up, boys. Nothing to see here. They turned as instructed and Johnny dismissed us with a flutter of his hand. Dumb, he said. Have you had enough, Bate? You were right, RJ. Can we go home now? Yeah. I looked over to Eldritch, nodded at him and then again at Johnny Darko. Eldritch nodded back. It was almost certain that idiot wouldn't be returning to his dorm room early on November 1st to take notes from vampire TV shows in his quest to impress young women with the darkest depths of his soul. His soul was either going to be splashed all over the alley behind the club or become a month-long fixture in Eldritch's veins. Either way, the kid was getting exactly what he deserved. Bate latched onto my arm as we made our way out of the metamorphosed roller skating rink to unauthentic vampire crypt. It wasn't so much that I disliked humans. It was more that I disliked followers who covered themselves in a facade of loneliness because of a fad transmitted in their tiny little brains. Everything I believed was confirmed for Bate. These were the same cocksuckers who called her a whore on her first day of junior high school. The only difference was their costumes. They were true monsters. I tapped the doorman on the shoulder as we exited. Have a nice night, Zuko. I'll be seeing you real soon. Yeah, I'll see you, friend. In hell. He chortled oafishly to the oblivious and self-consumed goths waiting in line. Whatever you say, champ. See you in hell. Before I had the chance to pat myself on the back, I was suddenly face to face with Dez. 4 of the younger battle snakes stood behind him. I made sure I was seeing things correctly. How did you know I was here? I asked. Tahoe told me. I didn't go in because those people make me sick. I thought they made you sick too. It was easy for him to brag about how much cooler he was than the losers inside Club Thirst. Unfortunately, I was starting to see that Des was substantially more like them than I was, and maybe even more so than Lord Eldritch. Des remained quiet, waiting for me to make any move. He signaled the battle snakes behind him with his eyes. I rolled mine back at him as if I couldn't see that he was 5 deep, 4 of which not being knucklers. One of the snakes inched in front of Des. "King Cobra wants to speak with you." I shoved my hand into my pocket, pulled out a wad of bills and the key to my house. I handed the package to Bait. "Take a cab back to the house." The Rasta parted our hands before the exchange took place. "He wants to see her too." A black Escalade rounded the valet booth. One of the heavies opened the door as another made its way around. As the snake talking to me retrieved the keys, he pushed the parking attendant to the ground by his head. Bait grabbed my arm. All the talk about the battle snakes and how much they hated me since she lived under my roof suddenly became reality to her. As we walked to our chariot, I whispered to Des, "What the fuck are you thinking? You told me to set up a meeting. Tonight, Des? Why would you blindside me like this? It's your fault for coming here on Halloween." Not fully realizing the dark days ahead, I simply ended the conversation with a snide. "Thanks, little bro." Good evening. This is Jason Hill, host of the Horror Hill podcast. You've been listening to a chapter from the award-winning novel Knuckle Supper by best-selling author Drew Stepek. Knuckle Supper, Ultimate Gutter Fix Edition, and its critically acclaimed sequel, Knuckle Balled, are available now from Bloodbound Books. Check out the links in the video description and sticky comments below to pick up a copy today and show your support for indie horror. Also, please consider making a donation to Children of the Night today and help end teen prostitution and human trafficking. Children of the Night is a privately funded non-profit organization established in 1979 with the specific purpose of providing intervention in the lives of children who are sexually exploited and vulnerable to, or involved in, prostitution and pornography. Visit childrenofthenight.org for more information today. From author Drew Stepek and all of us here at Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, thanks for listening and for your support.
Chilling Tales for Dark Nights.